Now that we've got our data entered, it's time for us to visualize that data a little bit. And so to do this, we're going to be using charts. So first thing we have to do when we create a chart is we're going to select the data that we want to chart. And so I'm going to select the very first bit of data, and I'm going to go to the end of that data, hold down Shift, and then that selects all that data. And then up in your toolbar, there's the Insert Chart button, or you can go under Insert Chart to do that. And I'm just going to insert the chart. And now it will automatically select the type of chart that it thinks should fit this data. And it's probably going to select a bar graph, which it did. All right, so there's what that chart looks like. Now you can resize this chart so that it fits on your screen. And we can customize this chart a little bit, and we should probably change some things on there. First off, we don't really need those labels that are on for each of the provinces. They kind of get in the way, and I'll show you a few different ways to get rid of those. But first way we'll try and get rid of them is using the actual editor here on the side. So if you want to change the type of chart, you can just click on that, and then you can go down. There's a bunch of different types of charts, and we'll look at some of the other ones later on in this assignment. But this one is fine for what we're trying to show. There's some other settings there. We don't really need to change any of that, but here's where we can change and get rid of that. At least one of the ways that we can get rid of that. And that is because we can get rid of that label. So I can go here and I can remove that label, and that gets rid of that writing there. So that cleans it up a little bit because we really didn't need to see that. All we really needed to see was the tuition prices and the university showing it on a graph. Okay, so there's some other settings that you can change on here for this, but basically that's all we need to do for this chart here. So I am going to shrink that down to fit into the space here, and actually I'm going to move this just down below us here just to have it out of the way, because we're going to be making another graph, and we'll put that down here as well. All right, so the next way to do that same chart without having to go in and change that information is if I select the first of the information that I want and then hold down the Shift button and go down, and I'm going to select this column. And then what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to avoid this B column because I really don't need the information there. So I just want to have the universities and the prices, and where they're in separate columns that are separated by this column. I can't just select across there without having to mess around a little bit before that. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to hold down the Control button, and I'm going to click at the top of this one, and still holding the Control button down, I'm going to click on the Shift button. And then that will allow me to select two separate bits of information over two separate columns, which I can then insert the chart for, and it should insert it without those province names on the chart. It's probably going to select the same chart, which it did, and it added in a title for me since it knows it was just using two columns. So it has undergraduate tuition versus university. Now, I don't like that title, so now I'm going to change this title, and there's two ways that you can change that title. One is you can just double click on there and you can change that title. So I'm going to say University Tuition Prices in Atlantic Canada, which is what it's showing. Okay. And I could have also done that by going to, under that chart editor, going to Customize, and then I can go to Chart and Axis Titles. And under that, I can change that title there. But it's just as easy just to double click on there. And the same goes for your X and Y axis headers. You can change those under here as well. Or I believe you can double click on those and change them there as well. So that's two ways that you can edit these. And I'm also going to take this chart, and I'm going to place that down below here as well, next to my other one. And I'll make this one a little bit bigger to match the size of that one. Okay, so now I have the two of those down there, and I do want you to keep both of those. And the other one doesn't have a title right now because it was selected over three columns. But if you wanted to add a title, again, you could add that directly through the chart editor under the Customize tab. All right, so the next graph that we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a pie graph, but we're actually going to be entering that on a separate sheet. So in Sheets, you can actually enter in separate pages within the same sheet, kind of like in slides or PowerPoint, where you can have multiple slides. You can have multiple sheets open in the same document. So I'm going to add a sheet by clicking on the plus sign, and then I'm going to create spot to put some data for the number of universities in Atlantic Canada by province. So I'm going to put in a title, province, and then I'm going to put in title, number of universities. And I'll just stretch this out to fit. And then I'll put in my provinces, Nova Scotia, Brunswick, PEI, and Newfoundland and Labrador. Again, I'll resize these columns to fit. So now I can just type those numbers in here. It should be very easy to do, but we're not going to do that, of course. We want to do it based on if we had a big data set and we had to do some calculations. So we're going to use another one of our if equations, and we're going to use a count if. And we're going to be getting that information from the other sheet. So I'm going to use this equation here, and I'm going to go type in count, and it's going to go count if. Now I got to go back to the other sheet to get my information. So I'm going to go back to this sheet 1, and I'm going to say count if this column, hold down shift, click on the first and last, and then I'm going to press enter, and that's going to take me back to that other sheet, but the equation isn't done. And I've got to enter in now, comma, and quotation, and I'll say for this one it's Nova Scotia, quote, and now you see the number. Okay, so it enters the number, which is 9. So that's a little bit of a convoluted way to do it because I have to go across to the other sheet to get that information, even though I want to show up in this sheet. Now I know PEI only has 1, and I know Newfoundland only has 1, so I'm not going to make you do any work for that. But for the New Brunswick one, I am going to do that count equation again, but rather than make you jump from sheet to sheet for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on this sheet, on the first sheet, I'm going to do the equation here, and then I'll just grab the answer. That way I don't have to jump back and forth to get that equation. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to go for New Brunswick. I'm not even going to put the title in. I'm just going to do the equation, count if. And that way I'm not jumping around. And I'm going to say count if here to here. And then again, comma. And this time it's New Brunswick. Don't forget all your proper stuff. Everything has to be exactly right or it's not going to work. Some of you have already found out. Press enter. So now I've got my answer 4. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to say equals, and I'm just going to go get the answer. So equals, and then I go to here, I click on that one that has the answer, I press enter, and now I've got my 4 there. And now I'm going to make another type of chart. I'm going to use a pie chart this time. So I'm going to select this data that I want to chart. I'm going to click on my chart, and it's probably going to give me a pie chart. It didn't give me a pie chart. Okay, so I am going to change it to a pie chart. There we go. It allowed me to change it. And you can see it's labeled with colors. It shows me its percent. And what I'm going to do now is I don't like PEI being labeled with the yellow and Newfoundland with the green. I want to switch those around. So again, I can go into that customize, and I just clicked on that and it automatically brought me there. And I'm going to change them to the yellow. And I'm going to change New Brunswick, or PEI, sorry, to the green. Okay, so I've customized that with my colors. My labels are all right. And I'm just going to resize this to fit on here. And so now I've got our second type of chart, and you've learned how to do equations across sheets.